Here's how to install the media rewinder. So a take-up reel for your labels. When your labels print, they'll go onto a little reel inside of it on a Zebra printer. This one's a 105 SL. I imagine other Zebra printers are pretty similar. The only specialized tool you'll need is something. This is just a luggage scale, but some kind of tension measure. We're going to have to put 4.5 pounds of tension on the drive belt. So you'll need something that you can use. They make a specialized tool for it, but it's not included with the kit for your $400 or whatever it costs. So step one, remove the side cover, and then we're going to remove the power supply. So remove 2 screws, 1 and 1. Take off this protector tied to the electric stick. There we go. Put that out of the way. Alright, now we're going to remove this power supply unit. So we unplug it first. Gently. 2 and 3. Fortunately, these are all, well, I'm shooting a video of it, but fortunately these are all different size connectors, so we're not going to get them mixed up. So now it is free from the board, and there is a screw here, or a bolt here, and then on the bottom, one here and one here, and that's coming in from the bolts coming in from the bottom with nuts on that needs to be taken off. So I'll remove those and then pop this out. Alright, these nuts are kind of hard to get to. I was able to get this one using this ratcheting screwdriver attachment. They're also torqued down pretty tight, so you may need a little socket or something that you can use with minimal clearance to get in here. They come off real easy once you've broken the tension, but they are on there really super tight. Alright, and there's one more screw holding it in. A bolt right here. And then, gently, easily, just move it up. Watch out for the wires. And out. Alright, there's a plug here that we need to remove. Just bend the tab inward and pop it through the other side, and we can go to the other side and grab it later. Alright, now we take the bearing part off of the winder from the kit, and that is going to go in here, right in this spot, and we're going to put the bolts in from the back side to hold it in. Alright, now we're going to install the idler pulley, this little deal, on the back side of the printer, but we have to put a bolt through here to get to it, to fasten it down. So just remove that plug hole, and then they give you this long giant Allen wrench with the kit. So you just put the Allen wrench, you got a bolt and a washer, you just feed it through here into the idler pulley adjustment slot. You can flip it around. Don't recommend trying to make a video while you do this. Flip it around, and then there's your idler pulley. Now this is what's going to be used to set the belt tension. You can see that the screw is coming through a slot, so you move it forwards and backwards to set your belt tension, which we'll do at the end. So take the pulley off, and then this is the shaft here. And just get a grip on it from the back side with the big long Allen wrench, and then I'm going to leave it loose now because we're going to have to adjust it later. Alright, now we're going to put the idler pulley on. They give you some grease in a box along with it, and they want you to grease this idler shaft. It says, and I quote, apply a very small amount of grease to the shaft and nowhere else. And then you put the pulley on. You can see the pulley has 2 different ends. One end has this kind of a bump on it, and the end with the bump on it goes towards the wall. So take the end with the bump on it, slide her on like that, and there is your idler pulley. Alright, now we take the take-up reel, shove it in the hole here. Aha! Now it's starting to look like it's supposed to. You can see it's a one-way bearing, only spins one way. If it's spinning the opposite way, that means you put in the bearing part backwards. And flip it around. Alright, now we're going to put the pulley on the shaft of the take-up reel. So first, we've got this little wavy washer goes in here. And then the regular flat washer goes in here. And then the pulley goes on. You can see there's an indentation on one end of the pulley and no indentation on the other. So the indented part goes out. Now if this were a crappy boy band from England, it would be called One Direction, because the bearings are one direction. And so when I turn it, it turns the shaft this way, but if I turn it the other way, it just freewheels. So you want to make sure that it's turning clockwise. It turns the thing clockwise. If it doesn't, then you've got it on backwards. So slide that on, little spacer. And then I have to push it from the other end to get it all the way in. And then I'm going to slide this clip on the end of it to keep it in place. Alright, when you're putting the retainer clip on it, remember that if you push on it, it's going to go back to the other side. So either you or somebody else should be pushing on it from the other side to get it all the way out so that you can get the retainer clip into the groove. You also have to push down a little bit on it because it's got that wavy washer in there that creates a little bit of tension. So that wasn't too bad. And that is that. So now that's on there. Alright, now we put the plate and support bracket on with the round part facing forward, so just use a couple of bolts and washers here. And then if you look behind here, you can see there's a hole right here. It had a plug in it, so I just punched the plug out that hole because there's going to be a spindle that goes through that hole. Alright, so the instructions say don't tighten this thing down yet. So, and take this piece, the platen roller holder thingy, and put the long end through the hole on the wall. Alright, so now we're going to place a couple of bearings on here. So these bearings, they don't have any directional to them, so these bearings spin both ways just fine. But you can see there's a little flange on it. So on this end, the flange is facing us. So put it on like that from this end. In there. On the other end, we want the flange up against the firewall as it comes in from the other side. So we just spin it around. We'll put the flange towards me here and put it in like that. Alright, now on this end we've got a little teeny tiny C-ring retainer clip that goes on to keep it from coming off. So we just snap that on here. And now they tell me to tighten these mounting screws. They also say that it may need adjustment later, because there is a little wiggle room. It doesn't, the holes are pretty big, so it can move forwards and backwards. Alright, so now we put this spacer on here and the take-up reel. And then this pulley goes on there. Inside of this pulley, it's kind of hard to see, but there's two set screws that are in here, Allen-headed ones. You need a little teeny Allen wrench to tighten them down onto the shaft to keep it from falling off. And you can see the hole is not round, it's keyed. There's a flat side, so you just put it on here. Yeah, this is another instance we have to hold it from the other end. Keep it in and make sure that your bearing is set on the other side, that it's in its hole up against the flange. And then slide it on there. Now, on the back side, this is where an automotive feeler gauge or something like that would be handy. Over here, on this end, where you've got the little clip, you want there to be a half a millimeter of side-to-side play, so you're not torquing down that pulley too tight so that there'll be resistance when it spins. So just about a 1/2 millimeter out is where you want it. You can see I've improvised a feeler gauge here made of sticky notes that are 1/2 millimeter wide. So I'm just going to stick it here. Use that as my spacer. Might have to use a little tape to hold it in place. And then on the other end, tighten the pulley down. Tightening the pulley is fairly simple. Just pull it through. Pull on the shaft so that it's tight up against my sticky note. And then there are 2 little bolts in here that you want to get into the little holes and tighten down. Now we remove these plugs from the take label sensor holes. One here and then one down here. Alright, now we're going to install the take label sensors in here. At first it looks like it's not going to work, but it will actually fit through the little tiny hole. So the top one has the green and yellow wires. You just bend the wires down like that and then shove it through the hole. On the back side there's some electronics you have to route it around, and then put it in facing down, so the electric eyeball is facing down, and then secure it with the screw from the back side. And then the bottom one has red and black wires. And shove that through the hole and secure it in there facing upwards like that. There's the view from the back side. The top one, there's not much clearance, and then on the bottom one it's pretty easy to get to. But you can do it without removing the electronics here. Now we install the big shiny mounting plate. This is easy. You just hang it on here on the front of the unit. Now the wires for the sensors have to be routed through these retaining clips so that they don't get caught in the pulley. So I've taken the green one and run it this way from the top, and then the bottom one is a shorter cable, so I had to route it from here up through this one, and I put it behind the wires that are already there, which will keep it out of the pulleys, and then we just plug it into the board. There's only one place you can plug this type of connector in and this type of connector in, so you can't screw it up. And there's words on the board that tell you which sensor goes where, so just read the board and plug it in where it fits. I also added a zip tie here and a zip tie here just to hold the wires down and make sure that they don't get into the pulleys or the belts. Now we need to take off now we need to loosen up this pulley. Now the tension on this belt is adjusted by loosening up where the pulley is connected behind here, and these 3 holes line up with 3 bolts that are in the back. So you stick an Allen wrench through here, loosen them up, and then it slides this way, loosening up the belt enough to slide it off. With that belt out of the way, now we want to line up our belt for the take-up. It goes this way. There we go. So that's the proper routing. So now we've got to unscrew the 3 bolts that are behind these holes, move this all the way back until it's tight, and then we can also use this to make final adjustments to get the tension right. Alright, now adjusting the tension of the belt is done with I'm using a luggage scale here. So I want to put 4.5 pounds of pressure on it, pull upwards, and then it should deflect 1/4 of an inch when my scale reads about 4.5 pounds. And you do it in the middle. So just get a measuring tape and stick it in there. That's really tight. So when I'm adjusting this pulley, I push as hard as I can on it and then tightened it down, and that made the tension right. So it's really a firm, tight connection. There's really no slack in it that you can feel. Use the same process on the top belt, but you measure it here. Same result, 4.5 pounds of pressure deflects 1/4 of an inch here. That's also really tight. Alright, now we gently reinstall the circuit board get all of the wires out of the way first. Put it back in where it came from. And then plug all of the wires back in where they came from as well. A nice thing about this is that every connector is unique, so you're not going to get a mix-up. Alright, some power there. This one goes up here. That one goes there. Like I said, even if you're dumb, you can't screw it up because there's only one place things can go. So there we go. Then I just bolt, or I'm sorry, nut, and bolt, and then this one down here as well, and then it's together. All right, now we've put back this danger high voltage cover using the 2 screws. Then the only other thing that you may need to do is adjust the plating bracket here that works this bottom roller. If the labels are coming out crooked one way or the other, you can unscrew these little bolts and shift it front to back to make it roll straight. Other than that, you're done. Plug it in and print it out. And there's the finished product.